From optometrystudents.com. Today we'll be interviewing Dr. Kassalow, the founder and CEO of Vision Spring, which is a nonprofit organization that delivers high-quality, affordable prescribed glasses, as well as ready-made reading glasses for people in the developing world. So Jordan, would you like to speak more about Vision Spring and how you were able to begin that organization?
Sure, I'll be glad to. I had an opportunity as a student to join a Bosch trip, and in my work with Bosch, I saw something that was quite dramatic in my perspective, was that for every 1,000 people we saw, it became clear that the vast majority of the people who came to get eye care just needed eyeglasses. 70% in fact needed eyeglasses, and 30% needed more medical and surgical kind of care.
Right.
And then of the 70% who needed eyeglasses, half of them just needed simple ready-made reading glasses. And it struck me that, wow, a third of all the work that we were doing was delivering a product that in America was a simple consumer product that you could buy over the counter.
Right.
And I felt that, wow, why should we need eye doctors and students and all the costs associated with Bosch trips to take care of a third of the problem? And that third could be taken care of by the local community. So over time, after I graduated, I thought, well, why couldn't we help local people take care of their own problems and sell ready-made reading glasses to their neighbors? In essence, what we do is we provide eye care to the hundreds of millions of people who don't have access to reading glasses. Now, in our world, those reading glasses are primarily for reading, but in the developing parts of the world, most people earn their living with their eyes and their hands. And people in their 40s, after they can't see, in many instances lose their jobs and fall out of the workforce.
Right.
And so there's a huge economic burden to eye care. So we have wonderful stories about how we have helped people maintain their livelihoods. And the other part of the equation of Vision Spring is we've also saw that just like people needed eyeglasses, there are a lot of people who needed jobs. There were a huge number of people who are under or unemployed. And so we put the two together and we said, well, why couldn't we help local people start small businesses selling simple eyeglasses to people who need them to see to work? Weaver in India. His name is Chandramouli. He's a 45-year-old weaver, father of 3 children. And as his vision started to fade, he lost his ability to work and his business went down, the quality of his work went down. And he was just a few days away from literally having to close his tailor business. In comes our vision entrepreneur, Ramadevi, and says, you know, you need help, and does a quick vision screening, realizes he needs a pair of plus 250 glasses, so we effectively changed Chandramouli's life. We enabled him to keep his store, keep his business.
Right.
On the other side, Ramadevi, the woman who sold the glasses, she made a few dollars for each pair she sells. And when we met her, she had 2 children, and they were in a local school. They lived in a very poor house. They had a wood roof on their house, and she was making around $25 a month. And within 3 months, she became our #1 vision entrepreneur, and her income went from $25 to $100 a month. She was able to buy books for her kids, send them to better schools, buy a refrigerator, those kinds of things. And so that interaction between Chandramouli and Ramadevi was was a very explicit example of how Vision Spring can fundamentally change two people's lives. One is the customer and one is the provider of vision care.
And this is a sustainable business model. So if, for example, the gentleman, the weaver, if he needed another pair of glasses, he can always go back to the entrepreneur and then continue to receive eye care.
That's correct. That's the beauty of it, is that the people who are providing the services are embedded in the communities where they live and work. The closest eye doctor was 30 kilometers away. So he would have had to take a day of work off. He would have had to buy a bus fare. He would have had to buy a consult with the eye doctor. He would have had to buy the glasses and lenses. He'd have to wait a week, so that means he'd have to go back to his village, do that again to go pick up the glasses. He'd miss 2 days of work, have 2 round-trip tickets. It would cost me, we usually cost it out to around $40 for a pair of glasses, whereas here you spend $3.50.
So are there entrepreneurs within Vision Spring that go out to their communities and create this awareness?
Part of what Vision Spring does is we go out and we create the awareness through our vision entrepreneurs, through some of our mobile vans. We have mobile optical stores in India, is one example of how we distribute now. We have essentially optical vans that act as pop-up stores, which means they pop up in a community for a day or two. There's an optical store, and each van is responsible for 150 villages.
How do you, what keeps you going on without being overburdened by seeing all this poverty?
Well, what keeps me going on is just the incredible seeing is believing moments that we actualize every day. That you've been to Nicaragua, you've probably put a pair of glasses on someone who hasn't seen ever properly, and that the miracle of that moment is very profound. It's one where you see you transform someone's life.
How much of a business and economic background is needed to begin an organization?
Well, certainly having some business and economic background doesn't hurt, but you and I both know wonderful examples of fantastic entrepreneurs who didn't have formal business or economic training. Small guys like Bill Gates come to mind. He dropped out of college. You don't need to have an MBA to start a social enterprise. You don't need an MBA to start a business. You don't need that formal training. So with my optometric training, I was able to start both a business and also a social enterprise over time. And it was not because of formal training. I learned as I went.
Yeah, it's the passion that drives.
It's the passion that drives you. And all business is solving problems one at a time, and being resourceful, and being passionate, and having staying power. And if you have those 3 things, and a little bit of intelligence helps, and some luck also helps, but having those things is what gets you through with business. But it's basically just dismantling every barrier that comes your way.
So while you were an optometry student, did you know that you always wanted to get involved in public health or in providing vision for the global community?
I didn't know it until I went on my first Vosh trip. I went on my first Vosh trip, frankly, because I love to travel. I wanted to learn. I knew it was a way that you could get a lot of experience. It sounded fun because it was kind of adventurous, and I always had an adventurous streak in me. But it wasn't until I was in that environment and came face to face with a 7-year-old blind boy who we realized wasn't even blind. He was just a 20 diopter myopic child, and I got to put those glasses on his face and saw a blind child transform into a sighted child in front of my eyes.
Any words of wisdom for an average optometry student who may be interested?
Just put in the hard work and go and have the experience, because you never know what will happen. But do yourself a favor and put yourself in maybe somewhat of an uncomfortable position and push yourself to go to an environment and a place where you might not ever go before, and you might find that miracles will happen and you'll parts of yourself that you maybe never saw before, and you'll be, certain sparks might fly that lead you in a direction that you maybe never had anticipated.
How is the optical industry getting involved with Vision Spring?
Well, we're fortunate that they are. We've realized a number of years ago that with this problem as large as it is, 700 million people needing eye care services, that a small organization like ours was obviously not going to take care of the problem on our own, and that we needed industry support. We have major players like Kassalow and Luxottica, National Vision, Ciba Vision, Transitions, Logo, Clear Vision, Classic Optical Labs, a number of really wonderful industry partners who have come on board to say explicitly that they support our work and they want to see us do more of it. And we are hoping to grow it further and get more industry support as we grow. We're about 3 months away from reaching our 1,000th customer served. And so that's obviously a really important milestone for our organization. We feel very proud of that, and we're going to hopefully let the world know that we're at the 1,000,000-person mark. But as any good, hungry, growing organization, we don't see that as an end point, we see that as a starting point. And our board at our last meeting has approved our next 5-year plan, which will be reaching 8 million people over the next 5 years. So it took us about 6 or 7 years to get to our first 1,000,000, and over the next 5 years we'll go from 1 million to 8 million people served. And we're putting plans in place to do that.
So Jordan, are there any opportunities for optometry students to get involved with Vision Spring?
We are certainly open to conversations with optometry students. We look for young, passionate, smart people who can help our organization grow. And if people approach us with ideas and interest and energy, I'm open to talking to them about opportunities in range of going to India for a summer and helping us with our refractive techniques and our more technical kinds of ends of our business, as now we're getting into prescription eyewear, or working here in the office if there's some students out there who have particular skills in social media and want to get the word out. That's how I started, by volunteering with a nonprofit organization called Helen Keller International. And if people come to me with some good ideas and convince me that they should work with Vision Spring, I'm all ears.
So Jordan, thank you so much for taking time and to speak to us. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. I'm glad I had an opportunity to share the Vision Spring story with optometrystudents.com. And I think what you guys are doing is fantastic. It's very innovative. It's a great service to optometry students who are trying to understand the full panoply of opportunities that are out there in our very varied and wonderful profession. So thank you for spending time with us.